What's different about solar training today versus, let's say, 5 years ago? So how do you see AI playing into training specifically in the solar industry as you look at 2026 and beyond?
You can start tiny. You can just get a little box that hooks some foldable solar panels to experience what it's like to be off grid.
Where do you see the real growth opportunity as we look at 2026 and beyond? This technology isn't going away. It's only going to get more widely adopted. The price is going to continue to come down. All right, welcome back to the Solar Surge podcast. Hey, if you're new to the Solar Surge podcast, with this particular program, we meet with the top CEOs and the top thought leaders in the solar and energy storage space. Now, this afternoon, I'm joined by Emmitt Muckles. Emmitt is a NABCEP board member, and he is the founder of SE Power Consulting. So, Emmitt, it's really good to see you again. Welcome to the Solar Surge podcast.
Thanks. It's good to actually be here. I've watched you for a long time and followed you.
Well, it's good to talk to you here as well, because usually we always see each other at the trade shows and conferences, but I know this is the first time having you on the channel. For those of you who don't know Emmitt, let me share a little bit about his background with you. Emmitt Muckles, he's a solar industry veteran with over 10 years of experience. He is also on the NABCEP board. So NABCEP is the North American Board of Certified Energy Practitioners. So this is the body that basically issues your technical proficiency certification in the solar and in the renewable space. And of course, Emmitt is also the founder of SE Power Consulting, which is a fractional training company. And that's a lot of what we're going to be talking about today is training and the importance of foundational training and continuing training in the solar industry. So Emmitt, maybe we ought to start off there. Why is training an important component when planning for a successful solar business?
Well, if you know about it historically, these were people who were very passionate. If you go back 15 years, these were people who had to know. They dug and found out the information that they needed. Well, then we moved into the commercial space of solar where it started being sold and contracts and things. So you needed bodies. You didn't have people who were very versed in solar or electronics or electricity. And it can be dangerous in some aspects, but you also want to do a quality job. It's not just slapping modules on a roof and slapping a box on the side of the house. You have to know what you're doing. You have to know the codes and regulations and the science behind it. When you have the proper education, it makes for a much better experience for everybody involved, in the homeowner, the people who are doing the work, the people who are doing the office things. All of this comes into play because if you don't have an informed body that is doing the work, then that's where mistakes and inefficiencies start to rack up.
Yeah, no, I can resonate with that because I remember when I got started in the industry before the solar boom, before all the financing companies came in. Solar was a relatively small community of enthusiasts, and the people that were doing it, they in many cases they had to kind of educate themselves because there were not very many well-established solar training academies or programs available. Of course, then around 2017, all the finance companies got involved, all the different sales companies got involved, and there was this big sort of boom. Everybody wanted to get into solar because they thought it was a gold rush. But before that, it was people that really did take their time to learn it, because you really did have to get it right, especially in the off-grid days where there was no grid backup. Like your solar had to work, or else the lights are out.
And it was a different landscape back then, because now we have people who are really dedicated and I'm talking about OEMs and manufacturers who are really dedicated into the storage space, because before the theory was you stored your excess energy in the grid. That's where you got your credits from. But like you said, about 2017, batteries started to become more prevalent. LG was the big thing back then. But then Tesla came on board, because I remember their rollout in Hawaii. And the finance, people start seeing where this model could really generate some revenue as a company. But we have not kept pace with the technological changes, and you have to be educated. Just think about it. Just think if you told your great grandma about AI. She would just be like, what are you talking about? And how far it's come in the last year and a half since it's happened. So you have to really continually educate yourself in places and organizations such as NAPSEP, SIA, CJA, MREA. They're all offering this information to keep people up to speed on the changes that are happening within the solar business. It's just for people to really grasp it and take hold of it.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, the solar business is kind of like any other technology-based business. The technology is not stagnant; it's constantly evolving. And so, if you want to stay competitive, if you want to stay proficient, you have to not only have that good base foundational training, but you have to invest in continuing education to make sure that you stay proficient in your trade. And I think that's true of any technical profession, medical profession, right? You need to stay current on the current state of the art. What are some of the changes that you've seen, let's say over the past 5 years, with solar technology? What do people what's different about solar training today versus, let's say, 5 years ago?
Here's the big difference. And there was a pivotal moment that we all experienced globally that changed in our business how things are done. That was the pandemic, COVID-19. Before, companies were manufacturers were having trainings, they were having lunch and learns, they were going on site, they were in the field doing much of the training, and they were having offsite training where they would bring you in and then do the training that way. Well, when 2020 happened, everybody scrambled. What are we going to do? Everything went online. Well, 6 years later, we're still online. That's part of the problem. Humans learn in a dynamic way. They learn from other humans. There was a study about how when computers came into the school, that the learning curve started to dip down because humans learn from humans. From birth, we learn everything from a human. And we need that interaction again. We need that explanation again. And not everybody learns the same way. So if you put a course online, you really have to understand the adult learning processes and beyond to really be effective in trying to communicate your message.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting you say that. No, you're absolutely right. I do think that people learn a lot more, actually doing it hands on. Back
Yeah.
in the old days, we had the apprenticeship system, right? You learn a trade by helping the master, right? The master, the expert, shows you how to do it. You physically do it with them. You see the wins, you see the mistakes, the losses, and you learn through experience. I can see on the one hand the attractiveness of a lot of the virtual training or the video based training. I
Yeah.
mean, we're making this video now, and it's great that thousands of you are going to be able to watch this without having to meet Emmitt or myself in person. But you don't necessarily learn that way just passively watching a video or listening to a lecture the same way you would if you get hands on with the material.
It is so important to have hands on because that's part of our learning, our learning mechanism. We're tactile because we have five senses. But when you're online, and I'm not negating online, it is a great component of learning. But you have fingers, you have sense of smell, you have eyes, you have ears. When you're doing hands-on training, you get the whole scope. For instance, if you hook something up wrong and it starts to burn, your senses pick that up, that you can't train. You can tell somebody, hey, this might smell funny if you hook it up wrong. But if you actually do it and you make a mistake in a controlled environment, that lesson will stay with you forever.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely right. Because a lot of times that emotional energy burns the lesson in you. I can remember as a junior solar person, one of my first jobs I ever did, I can remember opening up an electrical panel and literally I was sweating. They call sweating bullets. I felt like I was sweating bullets because at the time, I knew the solar, the batteries, everything that was going on the DC side, but I did not know at that time. I had no experience rewiring AC electrical loads within the house, and I can remember, just having that high sense of anxiety. I better not screw this up because I don't want to burn the house down, and I don't want to
Yeah.
electrocute myself. And of course, it is a potentially a potentially high risk trade. We're dealing with high voltage, and a lot of times we're dealing with working on the rooftop as well.
I got my first training starting at around the age of 7 or 8. My dad was an electrician for Ford Motor Company. He would, and he worked midnights, and he would come home, he would take a nap. And then by the time we would get home, or on Saturday, he would say, "Get in the car, you're going with me." And we would go to homes and replace knob and tube, or we'd put in extra plugs, because this was in Detroit. These are old houses. We do service, swap out services. So from the age of like 8 to like 13, I was with him every other weekend doing jobs. So when it came to this was like a no brainer. But here's the thing, I got hands on experience at a very young age. So it just became part of my DNA. When you have people who are coming out of school now, they didn't have that experience, is what I'm finding, because I do workforce development trainings as well. They didn't have someone who gave them a tactile experience, even with just putting together a go-kart or changing a flat tire, or I broke windows and my dad would make me fix them. All that is part of the learning process. It doesn't seem like it's directly applicable in your industry or here, but I can parlay all of that information that I gathered training from my dad into what I do now.
That's cool. Very cool. So, looking at how things are now in 2026, of course, the big talk, right? It seems like it's all the talk now is about AI and how AI is changing the economy, changing how we work, how we live, how we learn. So how do you see AI playing into training specifically in the solar industry as you look at 2026 and beyond?
Oh, it makes it so much faster. So before, you have products that are coming out and you have products that are changing on the whim. It used to take you literally a month or more to make a new training. Now, a new training from start to finish can be done, if you have a good team, within a few days to a week. Why that's important is because policies change fast, hardware changes fast, adoptions change fast, and you have to have a mechanism in place to keep up to date. Now you don't have to start from scratch. You can just employ AI as part of your tools. But not only that, it helps with the KPI updates, or knowledge management, not KPI, but KPM, knowledge management systems. So things are changing. You can keep AI or have AI tools that are monitoring these things to find out, hey, do we need a new revision, versus a human that might take a little bit longer, but a human can be overseeing the AI to make sure that it's exploring and needing to adapt to the changes that are happening.
I see. So it looks like you're already leveraging AI in creation of training materials and content. Do you see a future? Do you see a future where the solar technician in the field is using some kind of an AI assistant to help them work through what they're dealing with in the
absolutely
field?
Absolutely. For instance, there's a plethora of inverters and hardware that you might have to work with. One of the most notorious items is the error code. You get this E6, or you get something with some X's and some numbers. You're like, what's going on? Now, if you have an AI algorithm that is built specifically for fault codes, now they can literally talk to their phone. Hey, I'm working on a Selectria from 2015. The model is this, and I'm seeing this error code. What does that mean? Oh, I have a ground fault. Cool. I know what to do. And it can even guide you into what to do. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. For us, AI is going to be a efficiency machine for humans if used correctly.
Very cool. Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to see what the effect is. Emmitt, as you know, right now in the solar industry, one of the biggest challenges we're dealing with is a number of abandoned systems that are falling into disrepair. So I think the scenario that you described, where a technician is going to show up to diagnose a solar system, he may or may not know all the equipment that was installed there, or who installed it or when, and is going to need to be able to take apart and manage that system, and ultimately get the customer to a fully functioning working system. So I'm
Yeah.
very curious to see how AI can enable that sort of service.
So you have to think about it as well. So I'm a drone pilot, a licensed drone pilot. Uh, I can go out to a site and I can fly over with my thermal drone, and AI may catch something that I don't. And or you may be able to program patterns so that when you get your pictures, you run them through your own algorithm or your own language model, and it tells you, oh, I see this pattern here, string 42, and I'm referring to a commercial site here now, but it can be adapted to residential. It can see things in patterns that faster than we can. All we have to do is know how to use it. AI is a tool, and tools make jobs easier.
Sure, sure. Well, and I get it. You're talking about commercial type of applications here, right? If you're talking about thermal imaging and that sort of detailed analysis and performance tracking. But let's talk more about that, because I think if you look at the solar industry in 2026, in fact, we just put out a video last week entitled "The Solar Industry is a Bloodbath in 2026." At least on the residential side, things are not good in terms of growth. Things are not good in 2026, and I think a big part of that is obviously you had a lot of finance companies and a lot of this too good to be true financing that was offered to buy solar panels. But also you have a lot of the loss of the government incentive, this thing. So for a number of reasons, residential solar is not in a growth mode here in the US. But there are a lot more opportunities, it seems, in the commercial and industrial space. So what type of projects have you been personally involved with, and where do you see the real growth opportunity as we look at 2026 and beyond?
Oh, that's a great question. So just because we're not placing more solar on homes does not mean that there's not opportunities available. Now more than ever, there's opportunities for people to pivot, to become service people, to recognize these things and to start servicing equipment. The other thing is that now we have virtual power plants. There may be utilities that are working with customers that might give solar or have a solar option because they can buy energy from or use the battery from the customer in a virtual power plant for to keep the grid stable. When it comes to commercial applications, with the data centers growth on the grow, we're going to need more and more energy and to keep these communities stable when it comes to electricity. So that's another area. Commercial is not slowing down. And we think of just the solar farm we see when we're driving down the road, but it's more than that. It's the municipal buildings, it's the Target and the Target building and the Best Buy building. That's a lot of roof space. So there's opportunities out here. We just have to think about it. How can we adapt to the changes? I think this was actually kind of good for the solar industry. It just kicked us out the house and said, you got to grow on your own now. And once we retool and the fintech comes along and says, I have a viable product that's going to be good for everybody, and you have to meet certain criteria, everything's going to pan out.
Yeah, yeah, and we see that in a lot of the rest of the world as well, right? America is still, I would say 5-10 years behind Europe and
And
parts of Asia in terms of solar adoption. It's going to get there. It's going to get there. It's just that for whatever reason, us Americans love to finance everything, and we've got all these
yeah,
exotic financing and exotic, financial incentives that we've baked into solar, and part of that was why we saw so much growth during the 20 teens in the residential side. But Emmett, I got to say, my take is a lot of people got solar that just never should have got solar.
that
You know,
it's kind of like the meltdown of 2008. A lot of people got mortgages that should not have gotten a
shouldn't have had
mortgage.
mortgages.
It's the same thing
Exactly.
here. But we also have opportunities. So just think about this. Legislation for balcony solar and plug-in solar is growing across the nation. That actually opens up markets. The margins are much smaller, but the adoption can be greater. So if we think about things like balcony solar, if we think about the energy when it comes to residential, how can we bring people on an energy journey instead of selling them solar, we would be much better off. For instance, my office uses a solar generator that I run 2 modules outside, and I'm off grid. I am totally off grid, not on my house all day long. And I can run 3 days from my office with that setup, 2 modules and a solar generator. Now, just think if you're in an apartment, what that does for your bill, or if you're in a small home, if you can just take down some of that cost per day, those kilowatt hours per day, put it on your TV in your living room. There's a lot of things. It's just you have to tap into your creative brain to say, what can we adapt, and stop thinking in such a linear fashion, like we have to put 8 to 10 kilowatts on a roof or on a pergola.
Yeah, yeah. And again, we see this in Europe. For those of you who don't know balcony solar, I believe it got the name because literally, if you have an apartment, you have a balcony, you could literally throw some solar panels out on your balcony, or hang on the rail in your balcony, and you plug it into a solar generator or a small inverter, and then you just plug it into a wall outlet.
Yep.
It feeds into the electrical system in your apartment. You don't even have to be a homeowner to be able to take advantage of solar power. Or like Emmitt described, you might have a small off-grid system just to run your home office, or just to run, let's say, a workshop, and you can be independent of the power grid. And again, that kind of reminds me of the early days of solar, where everybody who was in it, whether a supplier or consumer, they were pretty much enthusiasts. Then we went through this period of, everybody needs solar. Everybody needs solar, zero down, easy monthly payments. And the salespeople ate that up. A lot of the consumers took that, but of course now we're dealing with the aftermath of a lot of it, with a lot of these solar bankruptcies and all the abandoned systems.
Yep.
But again, in my opinion, Emmitt, a lot of these people that got sold solar, they really shouldn't have had it in the first place. But for those of you who really want it, the technology's never been better.
No, the technology has it's slowly creeping in, and I know where it comes from. My wife is Austrian. So I visit Europe several times a year, and I see balcony solar everywhere. I see solar everywhere. My brother-in-law, I think he has a 10 kilowatt system with a battery, and I inquired, how much did you pay for this? He was like 25,000 euros. And I was like, it's like, this system would be like 80 grand in the United States. But we really have to change our mindset. But I think what might happen is, if several states have a Texas moment where they go without power, they'll really start to rethink, maybe this is a viable opportunity for us.
Yeah, and I think it really is, especially as the battery prices have come down now. Right now, you can do basically, as long as you don't get ripped off on the sale, and that's the other thing, and that's part of why we have this channel. Is so for you that are out there, potential homeowners or solar system owners, you can go into the process with your eyes open and know what to expect, and know how to avoid some of these pitfalls and scams. But if you buy properly, you can get a whole house now solar with battery system for the cost of what just a solar only system would have been 5 years ago. Meaning that you don't have to worry about what kind of net metering policy your power company has, because you just store your own energy in the battery, and you can run off your own battery at nighttime. You don't have to trade back and forth.
Yeah.
And if the grid goes down for whatever reason, there's a blackout, you've got your backup generator. The solar and battery is your backup generator.
Yeah.
You don't have to take that on as a separate expense either.
Yeah, they've got zero export. If you have a zero export for a home battery, so if you have solar with a battery and you have your circuits on a dedicated to switch over to that battery, and you have zero export, you're autonomous. And that's just a programming feature within most inverters now. So there's no reason outside of finances for people not to get into this. But like I said, you can start tiny. You can just get a little box that hooks some foldable solar panels to experience what it's like to be off grid. And then when you go to the beach, you can take it with
you. Absolutely. Well, Emmitt, let's switch gears a little bit now, because I want to talk more. Sure. And I want to learn more about your business and how you help other solar companies manage their training. Because I understand that you with SE Power Consulting, you offer a fractional training model. Can you explain for the audience a little bit, what does that mean and how does it work?
Yeah, so it's more than fractional training is just the tip of the iceberg, but it's a foundation that's needed in the industry. So for years, we would go through the solar coaster, and the one thing that usually suffers from that is training or training departments. People was like, oh, it doesn't make any money, it doesn't do this or that. So those are the first people to go. Or there's a new company and they don't understand that how marketing and training go hand in hand. So with me, I come in, I'm like, you don't need a training department. You just need to have a formal training. You need your LMS in place. You need your SOPs in place. You need your employees trained so that they know what they're talking about. And then you need to train your customers. And I put all of those things in place. And I'm not a full-time employee. I come in to do the job, get you where you need to be. And if you need me to come back, you can say, hey, Emmitt, we need you again. We need you for a month. This is the fractional part, because a lot of companies have de-emphasized training. They don't really understand how important it is. Here's where the marketing piece comes in. If you do training correctly, you show people that you're interested in them. You show people that they're important. If you show them that they're important, then they become your fan. So then that's where the marketing part when it comes to training. This is when you're going to the conferences and you're doing live trainings, when you're having lunch and learns, where you're pairing a salesperson up with a trainer so that they can give something live to people. Like I said, people remember people. People do business with people. And training is a part of that mentorship, that relationship builder that should be a part of sales, marketing, and the overall ecosystem. And then when people need help with that, because sometimes they're lost, they're really lost, I come in and I can see exactly where we need to cut through. And we usually can implement this in anywhere from 3 to 6 months.
Excellent. Excellent. Now I can remember that back from the days of running my installation business when I had my solar installation company back in Virginia, because we debated this too. Was it really worth the extra expense to invest in training? Ultimately, we decided that, especially since we were doing a lot of the early stage, like early generation battery systems, and these were more complex installs, that we had to have the best trained solar installers. And so we would offer our employees an incentive to obtain the NABCEP certification, whether it be the associate or the full PV installer, and give them a bump in pay if they are able to do that, because we knew that having the best trained people in the field ultimately is going to translate to better loyalty among the employees. The more you invest in them, the more loyal they become to you, and ultimately the better the customers are going to be taken care of, because you know that you're sending people out there that really know what they're doing. They're not just trying to, as you say, slap glass on the roof and get it over with and move on to the next job. Those days are over.
Yeah. And it's more efficient, because if someone really knows what they're doing, if they understand the ins and outs from their tactile working with it every day, but they have the formal training from the OEM, now they understand how to implement things so that you don't have callbacks, you don't have dissatisfied customers, and they can answer those questions that may not be appropriate from a customer, which means they have expectations beyond what the product can actually do.
Yep. No, 100%. So if there is a solar installer or another solar contractor out there watching this and they're interested to learn more about you, or maybe interested in working with you, where should they go?
They should go to www.sepowerconsulting.com, or just find Emmitt Muckles. There's not a lot of us on LinkedIn. Or come to the conferences. I'm usually at most conferences.
Sounds good. I think I saw you last at the Intersolar North America conference in San Diego. Yeah, I'm sure you were at the NABCEP Continuing Education Conference, right?
Yes, I because I'm on the board, I am going to be there. Next one's in Mobile, Alabama for 2027. I'll be at Intersolar Chicago within a short time here. I'm always doing their shows. But I'm venturing out too, because I learned that there's distressed properties. And when I say distressed properties, we know that there's distressed homeowners whose systems may not be working. But I found out that that's available in commercial too. So I'm acquiring those properties, or at least helping those people understand what they need to do to bring them back up to their at least 80 to 90% performance. And these are sites that are at least 5 years old. Their PPA is probably, they've gotten the incentives, and they just need some help.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm sure there's a lot of that out there. Is that where you see the biggest opportunity in solar now? Is
Yes,
repairs,
there's a
operations, maintenance?
yes, there are a lot of sites out there that are neglected because the thing about solar was, and it's been this way and it's just starting to crack, it was a set it and forget it. We set it out there, we don't have to worry about it. When it comes to ground mounts, or when it comes to commercial, or when it comes to rooftop, every once in a while you have to do some maintenance. On residential homes, you have critters, you have pigeons, you have squirrels that like to eat things. Well, when it comes to commercial applications that are ground mounts, you have grass that's growing, you have critters that like to make nests, you have water intrusion. They all have the same kind of anomalies that are happening to them, to their detriment. And people just need to go out and perform some operation and maintenance, whether it's residential, whether it's commercial, whether it's light industrial or utility.
Yep. Yep. No, I know. I mean, at the time of sale, a lot of times these systems, they sound great. It's a 25-year set it and forget it. There's no moving parts. There's no maintenance. And that's just not real. I mean, I
No.
understand a lot of us had good intentions with the 25-year no money down plan, at least on the residential side, but it just doesn't work that way. I mean, solar is like any other system that you might have in your home. Even if you buy a brand new air conditioner, within 5 or 10 years, you're going to need some kind of service, some kind of checkup. Same thing with a generator, same thing with your roof. Eventually, you're
Oh,
just going to need some support and some service. I know on the commercial side, things were sold a bit more responsibly. You know, there was an O&M budget. We at least acknowledged that there was going
yeah.
to be some sort of operations and maintenance expense. Of course, sometimes that was miscalculated or undercalculated, but at least there was a little bit more maturity, I think, on the commercial side of
Yeah.
acknowledging that yes, there's going to be an initial capital expense, but there's also going to be an ongoing maintenance expense to make sure that that system produces for you over the entire lifetime.
Absolutely. And what I'm seeing, there's opportunities everywhere in solar. We're just looking at one faction. We looked at one way to get to a place. Well, life isn't that way. There's always many roads that lead to your destination, but we were stuck on the freeway. We didn't know that we could get off, go on the off ramp and take these offshoots to get to the same destination. We want to save on our energy bill. We want to save our carbon footprint. We want to have a future for our kids. We want to evolve. And we just have to open our brainscape to get there. And I really like what you've done, because you gave people an understanding of this hardware and integration and what it can actually do. I think I remember watching your Franklin video. I was really impressed. And when the in phase battery came out, I was really impressed with those, because customers don't know. They just think it's a magic box and some magic panels. And most customers just think you slap the modules on the roof and they just, by osmosis, lower your bill. So I commend you on that, for actually educating the public on the hardware, the integration, and the means and ways which these things are done.
Yeah, well, I appreciate your support, and that is, I think, still our spirit, and one of our guiding principles here is making sure that we're providing, good, valuable information to the marketplace, to the community, so that if and when somebody does want to go solar, they can do it in a way where they're not going to be taken advantage of, and ultimately they can have a successful project. So. But as with anything, things do change. I think we're in at least on the residential side, I think we're very much in a cleanup mode right now, as far as how we want to proceed as an industry. I can tell you now, on a daily basis, I get on my Instagram feed, oh, were you sold solar panels, broken solar panels? You can get out now, $9,000 settlement, $10,000 settlement.
Oh, really?
Uh, it's all over my Instagram feed now. These solar contract cancellation companies.
You know
So
that that's America for you. Is so years ago when I was working for Fronius, I created this I created this training program for North America because I came from automotive, and there's one thing that I just didn't understand. Okay, the inverter's not functioning. What did they have to do? Well, we have to send them one out in a box. They have to take it out of the box, install it. They have to take the old one off the wall, put that in the box, and we have a return label, and they ship the whole thing back to us. I'm like, that makes no sense. So I designed a program to teach people or installers and technicians how to install and repair the boards in the field. It was called the Fronius Service Partner Program, FSP program. That thing was magical. And they were like, why did you do that? I was like, if my car breaks down, I don't send it to Ford and then Ford sends me an exact replica. I take it in, or I go to my uncle's house and replace the part that's broken, and we keep moving. I was like, it's the same principle. If people design their hardware that way, that just makes the service industry even more robust in this country with solar.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And again, getting back to your point about training, a properly trained technician will understand the equipment to that level of detail, where it's not just replace this box with that box, but I understand how to open up the box. I understand what the major components inside that box are, so if all you need is replace a power supply board, you can do that quickly and inexpensively, as opposed to shipping the entire inverter back and waiting a month and burning through a lot more expense and labor.
I mean, yeah, but you got to think about it now. I just saw EG4 came out with a solar mini split. We have solar mini splits. EcoFlow has a solar air conditioner. I've seen we have these solar generators. So I think we need to stop looking at like I said, the one thing and say, how can I, to any customer, make their life energy efficient? And what tools are there? And let's educate ourselves on how to implement these for the customer, because it's still a business model.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I think we're just going to see the technology continue to evolve and find more and more use cases and applications for it. So although we are in a little bit of a retooling phase, if you will, on the residential side, this technology isn't going away. It's only going to get more widely adopted. The price is going to continue to come down. And I think we've got a very bright future ahead long term.
Yeah. One of the things that amazes me, I live in a small town, maybe 35,000 people. And it's a nice little town. I see more Teslas per capita, Teslas, Rivians, and these new dirt bikes that the kids are riding that are battery powered. They're riding through the city and and I'm like, where's all this energy coming from? So if we keep on that road where we are relying on electricity for not only when we're resting at home, but our transportation as well, solar is going to become more and more viable, and we need to educate. We need to understand. We need to know what's available for us so that we can live these comfortable lives, because America loves comfort.
That's for sure. And we are big energy consumers. Well, Emmitt, I know we're getting towards the top of the hour here, so I will give you the last word. Anything else that the audience should know about what you're doing at SCE Power Consulting, or about where the solar industry is going in general?
Yes, there's one audience that no one has really paid attention to that I am paying strict attention to, and that is real estate agents. As you said, there's a bunch of homes out there with solar on there. So those houses are being bought and sold daily, but no one has educated the real estate agent. So in partnership with the Midwest Renewable Energy Association, I've come out with a course that enables an agent to really navigate comfortably the process of selling a home that already has solar. Or if you want to sell a home with solar, you'll know what you need so that when your agent comes through, or the buyer or the seller agent, can understand how to navigate this, what to look for, the red flags, and have checklists to move forward with ease through the deal.
Yep. No, that's a great point, because I know I hear from a number of realtors buying and selling a solar home does pose some unique challenges. Again, folks, this has been a conversation with Emmitt Muckles. He's the founder at SE Power Consulting. He's also a NABCEP board member and a regular attendee at the big solar industry conferences. So, check out him on the website. Also, come meet us at the big solar conferences. We both attend the InterSolar North America, RE Plus. Of course, you'll find Emmitt at the NABCEP Education Conference as well. I believe you said the next one's coming up in Mobile, Alabama next year.
Yes. I'll be DJing too.
Sounds good. Well, that'll be interesting to watch and listen to. But that pretty much does it for today's episode, folks. I thank you all for spending some more time on the Solar Surge channel. Of course, if you're getting good value from the videos and the content that we put out on this channel, make sure you hit the thumbs up button to let YouTube know to show you more content like this. It also helps us grow the audience. And also, go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, so that you'll be notified next time we have new videos coming out. But that does it for today. Emmitt, I thank you for spending some time chatting with us.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime. And thank you for spending some more time on the Solar Surge channel. As always, I'm Joe Ordia, encouraging you to get prepared and be empowered. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.